off, we were all uh, we had just finished the fight with the Red Wraith, and we're kind of doing some housekeeping and cleaning up on the ship. Um, it is now the morning after that first day on the mission, after the morning after that fight, and everybody is, getting up from wherever it is that they had slept, and they're going about their days. Uh, s- what is everybody doing as they're getting up? What is the first thing that they do? Let's start with Alok.
I don't know. I guess he'd probably try to find a room with no one else in it and do a little ritual thing. God.
Um, uh, Alok, as the ship is chugging along, um, you hear a faint murmuring in the back of your head. It is not in any language that you can decipher. It is hard to say if it is a language at all. Um, it's it's faint as for the moment, but it is putting a slight pressure in your mind, and it's maybe like a kind of like a mild headache from these voices. You were able to tune them out for the most part. Uh, how is Suma waking up this morning from wherever he had slept the night before or
Yeah,
tranced?
yeah, he probably fell asleep, so to speak, in sort of a meditation state on the somewhere on the deck of the ship, like um maybe not the crow's nest, but like another high point looking out at the sea. Um and he wakes with a start and has to collect himself from a series of very jarring dreams that he had. But after he collects himself and sort of dusts himself off, he'll go to find the rest of his companions.
Buru, how is Buru spending his morning?
He first unties himself from the mast, and does some stretches, some sit-ups, some push-ups. Depending on how fast the boat's going, he goes for a swim.
Cool, cool. I'll say he gets up early enough to be able to do so, um, and like still make good time. Captain Gallet for the moment. What is Gallet up to?
After walking away, after having a discussion with Andros, I'm
Mhm.
just gonna go back to the steering wheel. Don't know the nautical term. I'm just gonna go there and act like a captain. Try to get a feel for the controls of the ship. Actually,
Cool. And finally, Ruby. What is Ruby up to as she wakes from her slumber?
Does anyone know what that is called? The steering wheel thing? It's
I
kind of
think it's
bothering
just
me.
called the steering wheel,
Yeah, I think
Really?
or just the wheel.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought there'd be another word for it.
Helm. You might be thinking of the
helm.
helm.
Yeah.
Okay. Perhaps. So she probably wakes up. So she probably worked out in the middle of the night because she had like a kind of like not scary, but it was a very like jarring dream. Um, and then she went back to sleep for a couple hours, woke up, prepared some spells, and then I guess is gonna find out what a first mate does because she's not entirely sure what she signed up for.
Cool. Is it fair to say that everybody, after having completed their various morning rituals, would I would say everybody has like now gathered above deck, perhaps near the ship's helm, um, as as far as all of you know, the exact bearing. Oh, we got him back. Okay. As far as you all know, the exact bearing of the ship currently has not been set in stone yet. So you guys kind of like from all your different corners of the ship, finally come and meet up where Gallet is at the wheel.
all right. they like all show up and just all right, oh, nod to them, just letting you know, we're headed to Lagann. It's pretty close.
Sounds good, Captain.
All right. When we get there, we're going to need to dock safely. So anyone that is fast and strong, I'd prefer to be helping, making sure our ropes are tied. Just make sure it's gonna be a little bit of a bumpy park, and I'm going to need A-Lock to give me precise instructions from the watchtower nest.
Yep, I'm on it.
Cool. I will say that with Simon's aid, you have been able to chart a reasonable course to be able to kind of like he stayed up all night last night doing a lot of things. And a few of you actually came in and talked to him. He's had a couple conversations with some of you. And I think both of you have seen how frazzled he was and all the things that he was doing. And one of the things that he was doing was like charting, like, okay, mathematically speaking, if we're traveling at this speed, we should be, if we turn the wheel this much, we should be able to roughly be in the same position as where that island will be at this time. And the calculation is that you guys will arrive there in roughly 2 days. Um, this is a very rough estimation. It could be at any point on that second day. Maybe it could be a couple hours off, and there's no guarantee on the exact angle at which you are going to be approaching this island. Um, but yeah, um, we can spend some more time on the ship. If there are things that you guys want to do on the ship, conversations you want to have as a group with members of the crew, or interactions you want to have while you're on the Reaper, we can do that now. Or if you guys like, we can kind of like move through that and maybe just give a general overview of what we would be doing in that time and kind of fast forward to the day in which you guys would be arriving.
I would want to just ask the group in general, like, last night, how did you all sleep?
Spooky dreams.
Spooky dreams for one. All right.
That was
That's
fine.
another for me.
Okay, spooky dreams. Okay. And what about you, Ruby? Any?
Slept like a baby.
I don't trust her insight.
Uh,
Slept like a baby. Slept like a
roll.
baby.
I guess roll insight.
Yeah, I believe.
Oh, you just did
Ooh.
a four. A four. Yeah. I mean, you believe her. You take her words at face value here.
Okay. And forgive me if this is like a religious thing for you, Buru, but you usually sleep like that.
I didn't want to fall off.
Well, you didn't, and that is a very safe method of not doing so, I guess. I can't really point out any flaws in your plan, so I guess keep on keeping on, but I feel like being in the ship also is pretty strong for staying within the ship.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people there. I don't-
I guess. Are you not a real people person?
No, people are great. I just don't like sleeping with them.
Okay. You do you, buddy.
How are you sleeping?
Oh, I was tied to the mast. I didn't realize Suma was crouching in the crow's nest, though. That's kind of creepy.
No, I don't think I was in the crow's nest. I think I was like at the bow of the ship, like wherever would be pointing east, so that I would be pointing towards the sunrise.
Hmm.
Hey, not trying to pry too much, but in those dreams, were any of them sort of portends of a bad storm ahead? Just throwing that out there. Is that something that might have come up?
That was a theme, and our old friend, as in the Wraith we met only yesterday, made his appearance.
Did he touch your face?
Yeah.
No, although he was uncomfortably close to my ears.
Buru, we're on the same page. When he touched your face, what happened?
He stood up and walked away.
Oh, that's it? Just touched your face and walked away?
Mhm.
Okay, he tried the
About
same
you?
stuff with me, but no. I was also like just remembering that Red Wraith walked to him. He tried to grab my face, and Ophelia said no to that. She was part of it. It was the whole thing, but I was really interested to see what happens if he grabs your face, but it seems like nothing. That's good to hear, but all Suma, did you have any? Wait, you okay? No, we all three did. Alok, did you?
Yeah, I did.
All right, and did anything happen that you're willing to share with the group?
I saw the red wraith. That's it. Yeah.
Oh man, he just did not care about you, Ruby. I'm sorry. That
He
is.
didn't touch my face. That helps.
Like, yeah, he seems to be like iffy on the touching face part. But really, nothing, Ruby. That is. Did he not see you because you're like small and like the ship?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he has vision problems.
Yeah.
Maybe he was so intimidated by the radiant damage that he was like, "Oh,
Yeah, you're
I stay away from."
Yeah, that actually, maybe he's like, he would maybe just naturally be scared of you. Question, Ruby, what
I roll
is your
insight.
god?
Oh,
Wait, what'd you say, Ryan?
Can I roll insight as well? I'm a little.
Yeah,
off
yeah.
my
Roll
rants.
insight. Go for
You
it.
guys can continue your conversation.
have you heard of the goddess Priscilla?
Have I
Um,
heard about the goddess Priscilla?
okay. Ryan, Alok rolled a 16. So, Ruby, I'll let you decide what a 16 means in this context, because it's kind of like Alok's read on you what you're saying.
Okay. Well, definitely dreamed about the Red Wraith, as well as just like not sure what you could glean just from like looking at my face.
I mean, I could just, is it whether or not I know you're lying and you're holding back, or
Yeah, you could say like, am I holding back for a malicious reason, or holding back for another reason, or like,
Okay.
is it half true but like maybe not in the context, or that kind of thing, or is it completely
are you
true?
like, are you scared listening to all this and stuff like that?
Straight up lying. Definitely did not sleep like a baby. I am holding back because I don't, I guess, feel the need to share with you guys, or like I feel like I don't see us as a team. Yeah, I'm kind of just like, independent by myself, like trying to do things on my own.
Cool. Anybody else who wants to roll religion for that, except Gallet, you will not. Okay, you don't need to, but yeah. But anybody else who wants to roll religion to see if you know who Priscilla is.
Ooh,
Uh,
nice.
Yeah.
You have a
a
+4! How? You always
That's a
have
nat
the
one.
highest modifier!
Oh my god.
So on that nat 1, you believe that Priscilla is a really famous old bard. Maybe you heard a name that was like that. Like, oh yeah. That's like a person that
Sure.
existed in old times. Suma, you've maybe heard the name before, but not associated with any kind of deity. Buru, you are aware that that is a goddess. Um, and Gallet, having spent so much time as a sailor, you would know that Priscilla is the patron goddess of the storm, of storms and rain and hurricanes and tempests. Hence, Tempest Domain. In that uh, Priscilla is a goddess that's not typically worshipped. There are very few in history clerics of the goddess Priscilla, mainly because in a society in which seafaring is such an important factor, they don't worship storms. Um, she is often regarded as something to be feared, something to be avoided, something to be placated or made offerings to, but not something to be worshipped. Perhaps you would also be aware that on your old ship, as in many ships made in older times and more superstitious times, that um, back in the day, they used to make, when they were making ships, uh, they would wait until a tree was struck by lightning, and they would chop up that lightning struck tree and use some of that wood as part of the ship. Sometimes it's just a random plank. Sometimes it's part of the mast. Sometimes it's the crow's nest or the helm, and that was considered to be a good luck in avoiding storms because everybody
It can't hit
did not.
twice. It can't.
Yeah, it can't hit twice. It's that kind of thing. But yeah, that is Priscilla, a goddess of the storm.
That's interesting choice, but I can't knock it. Can you
You
just let her know that we really appreciate like no storm right now. Our ship can't probably take it that well.
you're muted.
You're muted.
Oh no, she's just talking to God.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I had to do a quick check. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you, Gallet. Yeah, so you don't have that kind of relationship. Storms happen, and then it just happens. You can't really do anything to stop it. You just kind of go with it.
I'm a little confused. Ruby, you worship a bard? I mean, everyone has their goddess, I guess, but
I think you're thinking of Celine Dion or someone else.
Famous
So
bard Celine.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, Celine's original name before she changed it to a stage name was Priscilla, which is very similar. Um,
Makes sense.
right.
that hence the confusion.
Priscilla is the goddess of storms, which you should know,
Oh,
given that we're on a ship.
sorry.
Those are.
I thought I knew.
I mean, you could still be right in a way, because I mean, unless Ruby, you can just call me out if this is full of it, but how much do we actually know about the gods? Maybe she was a bard that turned into a goddess. You know, this world is full of
Yeah.
fantasy and magic. You know, anything's possible. You know what?
Imagine that.
I think Alok might be onto something.
Yeah. I've read in a book somewhere, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, like the Song of
He's very
Storms.
uncomfortable about all this.
For everyone's notes, Procella is spelled Procella. It is Latin for storm, hurricane, tempest.
Procilla?
Procella.
Like
Rose.
flotilla. Yeah.
Procella.
Ah, she's so funny.
Yes, Latin. Um. Yeah. Cool. I mean, y'all are free to talk amongst yourselves about what happened last night as much as you like.
Yeah, so just bringing that up because the ship's not in good spirits, not in good shape, and fight would be somewhat unfortunate to have, especially considering that even before this fight, this ship wasn't particularly well taken care of. Like, there are two hatches that for the cannons will not open, and the middle cannon just doesn't work. So, anyone like good with cannons or carpentry, you know, if you got time.
I have mason tools. good with rocks. If there's things that are made of that material on the ship.
Probably.
Yeah, roll an investigation check to see if there's anything on the ship you might be able to use to fix up this cannon. A 7. I will say that there are some like some rocks on the ship for no reason, but nothing that seems like how do you fix a cannon with a rock, right?
Fucking stone
So
the
at this
boy.
moment you don't see any yeah. They're like kind of like you can tell that they were like maybe slabs from some ancient ruin that Aramis and his crew like plundered at some point, thinking it might be valuable, and then they realize no one's gonna buy this; it's worthless, and so it's just laying there in the corner of a ship, in a storeroom somewhere, not really able to be used currently.
Okay. And if there's others near me, I just speculate. So after we get repairs in Lagann, do you guys have any specific things you want to do you want to go to the place we were originally destined to? Let them know at that port that Gawain's dead, and maybe just throwing this out there, try to pull it off. Like just act like we're gonna sell them, try to bust a major ring, and also potentially they may have things that would help Ophelia, because I assume if they're going to try to buy her, they would have something that would be similar to her old habitat, like an aquarium with the right kind of water.
Yes, I would like to head on to the Galen Republic after we are finished with our business on Lagann.
Insight check.
Me too.
Sure.
He's just
Love this.
paranoid.
Spooky dreams.
When the party isn't best friends yet, insight check.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
Immediate insight check.
This may be malicious. She gave me a good answer at a good time. I'm not used to this.
So what does that 8 mean?
An 8. Yeah. You
You're a straight shooter.
believe me straight up. Cause yeah.
Oh, now I'm confused in real life.
Alright. Well, if no one else is going to speak up, I guess we'll go with that plan of action.
Cool.
What should we do with the animals at Lagann?
What End Worlds?
Animals.
Oh. Keep them on the ship. If possible.
Okay, so you want the
Maybe we could
crew
ask
to do all the repairs?
Well, I assume the repairs will be done in Lagann. That's why we're going to Lagann.
Right. But if we hire outside people, then they'll know we're smuggling a whole bunch of illegal animals.
We're under the shield of Celestia, so I think we can just probably talk about the situation.
That's valid.
I mean, we could just keep that one room
Diplomatic
closed.
immunity.
Can I? Does anybody want to roll a history check on Lagann as an entity? Maybe let's have Alok and Suma roll history checks. Actually, you too, Buru.
I expect nothing less.
Oh, nice +0 into a 12, then +4 is nice.
So Suma, you've been on this this plane of existence. You've been alive for a bit longer than I think everybody else here. And in your time being old and wise, relative to humans, you will have heard of the fact that Lagann, due to being both created by and populated by the Warforged, um, are very accepting of pretty much any kind of person. They do not care overly much about laws or traditional morality. To them, all of the Warforged were created equal, and they feel that it's weird that there is so much squabbling over different traditions, religions, and uh, whether you're an outlaw or a runaway royalty or a criminal or someone persecuted on your island for your religion or for what have you, whatever race you are, they tend to see you all as the same, and they consider themselves distinct from and free from the laws of every other island. Buru, you would have a sense that um, from your, because there was a library on the at the monastery, you will have read up on the fact that just like Hadzi, Lagann is also seen as a refuge for whomever might find themselves
Groovy.
there, however they found themselves there. Um, cool. So that is in the sense of if you're worried about being caught out in some fashion or outed in that way, it is less of a concern.
I'll probably just say something like, perhaps if they ask, honesty is the best policy, but I don't think it will be an issue. We're not going to get into trouble.
Cool. Is everybody comfortable with like ending that discussion there, or is there more that we want to talk about while we're here at this point in time?
Good.
I'm all set.
Yeah, I got nothing to really add.
Cool. All right. So we're gonna move through this first day of travel. The crew is hard at work. They're manning the sails. Gallet Simon is in your ear, like, oh, I think that you should be holding it at 2 and 10. Actually, I find, or so I have read and I have observed, or a previous Captain Aramis, that it allows for better control over the direction. Oh yes, and then he's kind of like as he's talking to you, he's like also like running across the deck with his tiny legs to give some kind of warning to some of the other people like manning the mast and everything, and like people are kind of like annoyed with him and his kind of new heightened role on the ship, but they begrudgingly listen to him because you guys listen to him. um in general, what is everybody doing as we kind of go over this time period of just regular sea travel? I'm not going to
Is
throw
Simon,
like a sea encounter at you, don't
is,
worry.
is Simon a child or a little person?
He's a gnome.
No. Okay.
He is a small gnome.
We put a
Okay.
5-year-old in charge.
Sounds like a good idea.
I thought he was a gnome.
He's
I thought
very
he was a child.
he is very anxious
Oh my
and
god.
and he has a lot of energy, and he just wants everything to go according to plan. That's kind of his vibe as a person.
Groovy. Brew following orders. He's watching somebody who's been on the ship to learn the ropes, so that when they
Cool.
get closer, he can help out.
Quite literally, you are learning the ropes, like the literal ropes that kind of help man the sails and at the mast. Um, uh, they teach you like kind of how they pull the anchor up and how they let it down. They have this massive I pointed to this earlier. I don't know what it's called, the terminology for this thing, so I'm just gonna transport you guys to the ship. Ignore the skeleton still being there. Do you see this thing?
Hmm.
This kind of wheel with these four things sticking out. They kind of show you how they have like 4 people on each of those four kind of thing sticking out, and they use it. They pull on it in order to kind of, as a crank, lift up the anchor and lift it back down. Make a strength check for me. That's not 20. Yeah, that's not 20. So they are very impressed by your ability. Like they kind of like, oh shit, like, damn, we could just leave you, just one person on one end, and we'll be good. And then the rest of us can gather on the other three ends. It'll be perfect.
Oh no, he won too well.
They happily like kind of like teach you how to do that in that manner. Alok, a couple of crewmates approach you. Make a sleight of hand check for me.
Okay, oh boy. Yep.
11. You are average at this, but a little bit above average at this. This half elf named Shaz. He goes up. He's like, all right, look, okay. So what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to tie these knots exactly like this. Okay, that's adequate. That's adequate. But let me. So you guys spend like the better part of the afternoon. Shaz kind of like teaches you different knots to use, and he's like, listen. When it's raining, right, you're gonna do a knot like this, and you're gonna seal it off with this adhesive we got here. It keeps the rain from sogging up the ropes and like making it harder to tie and all that kind of thing. And he also teaches you make an acrobatics check for me.
Love all the checks. Yep. Okay.
9. Okay. Here's my theory. We're getting them out of the way, right? In this low stakes environment.
It's time.
So that later on, so your first time getting up to the crow's nest goes a little rough. You kind of like slip off at some point, but you do manage to catch yourself on a rope. And Shaz is like, yeah, Celestia, this kid's gonna give me some heart attacks.
Sorry.
But again, he teaches you kind of like, all right, so here's what you do. He kind of points out like the easiest way to climbing up these ropes. Because they don't have a ladder on the crow's nest because previously Valere would just wind herself up to be at the spot. So there is not yet a ladder. However, in your interactions with Shaz, he does kind of like help you like lift up this thing of rope, and eventually you are able to fashion yourself a ladder. So sorry. Make another sleight of hand check.
It's fine.
This is the one. This is the one.
Okay. Well.
This is an okay ladder. It is made of rope, and you are a slim, like framed person. You do not weigh too much, so this will definitely support you. Okay, but perhaps a heavier member of the crew would cause this thing to snap. But you're like, I'm the only one going up here. In theory. Ruby. Simon walks up to you and he's like, sorry to interrupt whatever it is that you were doing previously.
Supervising.
Supervising, that's so great.
Mhm.
I would expect
Yeah.
a first mate to do that. Yeah, and that's you instead of me. It's great. It's awesome. I had a couple of questions. Not questions, more like I want to inform you of a couple of things. There is a sizable amount of the crew that kind of is contemplating leaving the ship after all the work is done. The orders have been passed down that you all want to stop at Lagann, repair the ship, and that's wonderful, and then move to the Gallan Republic. a couple of us, the loyal ones, the ones that are worth anything, of course, are going to stay with the ship. But others are considering their obligation and their place in the ship to be defunct now that Aramis is not here. Um, how do you want us to handle that? How do you want to, the captain is busy with the navigation of the ship, I'm assuming. Um, and a first mate often is the kind of the emotional support for a lot of the crew because the captains are usually so intimidating. Um, some people might be good at that. I can't think of anybody. How would you want to handle it?
Emotional support. Okay. That's not really my style. Um, do you have a list, or do you know like which people are thinking of being cowards or quitting or leaving the ship?
Um, uh, when you slip of the tongue say cowards, this actually endears Simon to you for a moment, and he was trying really hard not to be endeared to you, but he feels very similarly. He says, Suzanne is like one of the ringleaders of this whole like campaign, which pisses me off because Suzanne is one of the ones who owed Aramis the most. Like some of us got out of sticky situations, but in my opinion, Suzanne kind of like earned what was going to happen to her before Aramis
Ouch.
plucked her out of
Mhm.
the gutter. Um, so if you want to get a
Oh,
bead on maybe how they're feeling, I would talk to her.
great. Thank you so much for telling me this, Simon. I'm going to deal with this in an emotionally sensitive way right away.
Oh,
Um, can I find Suzanne?
Sure. Roll an investigation check for me to see if you can find where she is.
Investigation.
Yeah. 10. It takes you some time, and you kind of have to like spend time walking around the ship, like wandering around. But you eventually find her. She is one of the only crewmates that are not like actively doing things on board. She's just in kind of like a corner of the shared cabin that she has with like multiple people. Um, and she's just like kind of on her hammock, like scribbling in this journal.
Wow, how many vacation days do you guys get? Because you must be using your PTO right now since you're not doing anything.
See, that's super funny. Um, to me, every day aboard the Reaper is like a vacation.
Wow. Okay, that makes sense since you seem to be one of the least contributing members of the ship. That you would see it as a vacation.
She takes out a dagger, not threateningly, but like kind of like she always has this on her and uses it to make a point every now and then. She says, "I'm sensing a lot of hostility right now, and I just want to cut to the chase. Do you have a problem with me, first mate?"
Ooh, those quotes. I have a problem with the quotes. Um, and secondly, I don't have a problem with anyone until they make it my problem or they make themselves my problem. Um, it seems like you've been stirring up the pot and trying to get people to leave.
Yeah. What
Forget they're
about
on the
it?
ship.
The Reaper, the Slim Reaper. Um,
Right.
Aramis is gone, and I have no obligation to be here anymore.
Right.
Uh,
I just think it's really funny that the person who probably had the most, who owed the most to Aramis, is the first one to jump ship. Really
oh,
interesting.
okay. Suma, make a perception check for me.
Yes.
5. You are in Simon's room, which is like relatively close by because you had promised to help him with all this stuff and like kind of with the bookkeeping and the navigation and all that, like this learned person's things. And you were so engrossed in this that you do not hear the, at this point, very loud argument that is happening kind of like just like 3 doors down. Um, uh, and Suzanne kind of hops up. She is a halfling. She's very small, but she possesses the fury of 1,000 orcs. She goes, you know nothing about me or my relationship with Captain Aramis. And I'm saying captain, not former captain.
Right. Okay. Well, all I know is you're leaving at a time when the ship is probably at its worst. So it really makes me. You're very similar to Captain Aramis. You know, he was the first person to try to book it out of here when the Red Wraith appeared. Did you know that?
She takes immediate offense to this and lunges at you. Make either your choice a dexterity saving throw or a strength saving throw.
They're the same. Okay, let's do this one.
A 4. Okay.
Oh, no.
She lunges at you and like with her knife and like presses it against your throat because the two of you are not super far in height. As the difference may be with other members on the ship. She says, I have a basic sense of respect on the ship, and for that reason, I will not harm you directly. However, you do not have the right to speak of him in that manner.
I cast command and I tell her to get off me and to like bow down, I guess. I don't know.
You want her to bow down?
I don't know. I looked at the examples and one of the things I can do is make them grovel. So I just feel like this is I don't know.
Okay. Let me roll that save. Her wisdom is not high. Okay, that's a 4. She like kind of like immediately like brings the knife back, the dagger back, steps away from you, arms flat to her sides, and like with almost like every muscle in her body is trying not to do this, but she can't help but like bow, and she says, I'll simmer down. Thank you for your time, first mate. And you are very certain that this has been a very temporary solution to this problem. This confrontation is over. The battle is over. The war is not.
I'm
Suma,
not good at HR stuff.
which is why I think it's really funny that you are first mate. Because I think first mates, traditionally, I feel like are kind of the liaison between the captain and the rest of the crew, kind of an in between this ultimate authority and everybody else on the ship. So a kind of mediator position, or like trying to get a sense of how the crew is feeling, often falls upon the first mate. Suma, you are in Simon's room currently, but you can leave to do other things if you like. You're surrounded by his various books and notes and logbooks. What would you like to do in this time?
Yeah, I guess as part of the like flavor of leveling up, I would be multitasking with the bookkeeping, but also everything that we have encountered in the last 24 hours has led me to some thoughts, and I'm like furiously scribbling things in my spell book and just like chatting with my new little bat friend. And so I guess that would be me like working on the new spells that I'm learning.
Your
And yeah.
your bat friend, Bathu, or whatever is the actual name of him is
Oh
going to
yes,
be
I forgot to. I would like to name him Bella after Bella Lugosi.
Bella, like one L, Bella, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Bella is perched on your shoulder, kind of peeking, and he takes turns like popping up, like covering his eyes and popping up your other shoulder, like, so what are you doing now? What are you doing now? Are you writing in two things at the same time? How do you even do that?
Yeah, I just talk him through it. Like anything he's curious about, I'll pretty much just chatter to him. Like I'm perfectly happy to carry on a conversation. And yeah, I feel like I would just be going like from spell book to like math problem in the ledger, and I'm like, oh, but if this, then that, and I write my spell book again and stuff like that. So yeah, just hanging out.
I am going to ask you to do maybe something weird. Roll. I need. Okay. I need you. Okay, we're gonna do a series of intelligence checks, but we're gonna treat it as if it's like a death saving throw, where success means 3 rolls over 10 before 3 rolls below 10.
Should I
You
just
can add
do
your
them?
modifier. You can add
Okay.
your modifier as well.
So intelligence modifier and a d20. Okay.
Incredible. Oh, okay.
There's
Mhm.
one.
She's
Oh
got
no!
Uh-huh.
Oh my god!
Uh-oh.
This is crazy.
Okay.
What happens to me?
Nothing bad happens necessarily. Were any of us natural? Okay, no, none of them was not. That's not 20. Um, you put in some good work. In helping Simon like kind of draft up these approach tactics in trying to get to the ship. Trying to dock. But no major breakthrough has been had here. Um, uh, but Simon is kind of pops in for a second in a rush, and he's like, "Oh, you're taking care of. Oh, thank God. Okay, bye." And he runs back above deck.
Just like I'm
Gallant.
like, what?
Yeah. What? Maybe on that last on when he pops in, like you kind of lose your train of thought.
Yeah, that's why it's a 9 because I was like so close, and then he popped his head in, and I was like, what?
Yeah, and then instead of remembering where you were at in like kind of the equations and all that, you think of another spell thing and you kind of go back to your spell book and get distracted by
Yes.
that, or maybe you're adding on to like one of the letters that you're writing, or like there's a lot of things going on in your
Oh
brain
yeah,
at the
I
same
am kind of
time.
triple tasking, right? Yeah.
Gallant, you are posted up on the helm of the ship. Behind you, Buru is kind of like talking with some of the sailors, learning how to move that crank and operate the anchor and all that kind of stuff, like how to pull the sails. Alok has just almost died falling off of the crow's nest off that 9 acrobatics check, but he's okay and he's tying a ladder now. What are you doing as the captain in this moment?
I'm extremely nervous. Things don't seem to be going my way. The crew may not be happy. So I'm just gonna in a voice that may pick up if others pick up with me. I would just do the thing that I remember from my previous days under Captain Greenhide. And I'm just gonna go for a shanty. Old Billy Riley was a dancing master. Old Billy
Oh,
Riley.
Billy Riley was a... Oh yeah, Buru jumps in with you for sure.
Okay.
Make a persuasion check or performance check with advantage.
Oh, thank God for advantage.
Yeah, boy.
What a turn!
Alok
What a turn
turned
of
it
it!
around. If it was just me, no one would be part of it.
Murder.
So, because you were a captain, and because somebody else immediately joined in with you, they say that it is not actually the leader who is the most important at getting something going. It is the first follower, because that legitimizes this initial idea as something worth joining in on. And immediately, it starts off as like a low grumbling as the sailors are kind of like, yeah, I do know the worst of this. Kind of goes like, oh,
It's the
Billy
most
Riley.
simple. It's the most simple one.
And then eventually, like people start joining in, like people are coming up above deck and hear like the rumblings of this happening. They're coming up and like, oh Billy, and then eventually like the hours pass very quickly as everyone starts dumping in with different shanties. People take turns going, oh, dear lads, know this one. And it's like, soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum, and like, all the different. That's not technically a real shanty, but whatever. And the mood on the ship brightens. Um, uh, as a result of this, you get the sense that like shanties was not a thing that they were really doing previously, or at least not for a while. But this has like truly brightened their spirits. F- uh, for a moment, Suzanne even kind of lingers in the doorway that leads down to the deck, kind of like mouths along, um, before like turning back and stomping off to her cabin. Like she couldn't even resist fully. Suzanne, a little bit. Maybe she has her reasons, but a little bit. Um, Cool. I will say that at the close of this night and day of traveling, everybody gathers in the mess hall. Patrice has whipped up another round of jerky soup. And you don't know why, but it tastes a little better tonight than it did the night before. Perhaps he was a little shaken, but it tastes almost like a delicacy. Like you like before it was like this is kind of gross, but there's something special in the sauce tonight, and you were enjoying it quite a bit more than you used to. Um, uh, do we want to do anything else on the close of this night, or do we want to move to the next day?
Insight check on the special sauce.
Insight check. Go for it. 21. Um, I will say with that 21, you actually as you are kind of standing around the mess hall, maybe you popped in for a second. You actually watch as Patrice kind of looks around, kind of looks down, takes a deep breath, nods, and then unlocks one of the cabinets with like a key that he has in his pocket, takes out another box, unlocks that, and inside of it is another smaller box, and he unlocks that. And finally he brings out a small, like a drawstring bag that is like kind of translucent, and there's like spices in it. And it though it looks like as if it pains him to do so, he takes a generous sprig of it and adds it to the stew. And even though there's not that much of it, each bowl has been heightened in terms of taste significantly for everybody who's eating. Um, yeah. What stonemasonry are you up to, Ruby?
No. Sorry, I was just.
That I'm just like, okay. I mean, that's valid. If you were like, hey, listen, I want to those stone slabs from earlier, I'm gonna make a statue. I mean, that's fair. Cool. Is everybody good with closing out this night?
Yes,
Awesome.
sir.
You all go to sleep in your respective quarters, or I guess Buru, you'll probably tie yourself to a mast again. You did not seem dissuaded by anything, so you continue to do that.
During the night, if I see that, I'm gonna just bring a blanket from below and just offer it.
Oh,
I don't know.
He
Perhaps
absolutely
you-
accepts.
Okay. Well, you have
Incredible.
tie the blanket around him.
Yeah. Just there you go. You don't need a rope anymore.
Cool. And the night passes peacefully. Nobody has any strange dreams. Nobody has any traumatic experiences. The night just passes and it fades into day. The day comes and Simon is kind of running around. He wakes you up, Gallet, first, and he says, cool. Captain. Hi. Sorry, were you sleeping?
But don't worry. What's the matter? I sit up.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. Whatever important business you were doing, I'm sure it was very important. Um, uh, it appears if my calculations are correct, and Suma helped with those calculations as well, so I'm sure that they're extra great. Um,
Great.
be on a collision course with Lagann in roughly 4 hours. So I just wanted to, get a head start on the day. I didn't want to wake you up when we were about to, like crash into somewhere. Obviously.
I check his under his eyes. Is it baggy? Has he been getting sleep?
Very little sleep. Um, yeah, yeah. He like underneath his eyes are just 2 bags of holding, essentially. But he runs up and says, "Okay, that's great. That's great. Just wanted to let you know. Just wanted to let you know." And he runs off. Buru, you are rocked awake by kind of a rougher than usual wave, kind of crashing onto the side of the ship. You blink away. You are still tied up, but there is a blanket around you. You have not contracted a cold. You don't feel stuffy. You were sufficiently warmed through the night by this blanket, and also your toughness in general as a monk. What is your first move as you were waking up?
Untie myself.
You
Do
untie
some
yourself,
squats, sit-ups,
do some
some
squats,
push-ups.
get yourself primed and in good physical condition. Suma, what are you up to as you are waking up today?
I think I probably fell asleep like in my book with my face like it has like a crease mark on my cheek where my face
In
is
Simon's room?
No, I think I would have taken some of my work to
The shared cabin?
the shared cabin, yeah. And so yeah, I think I wake up and I kind of have that thing where once you haven't looked at your work for a long time and then you read it over, you're like, oh, that simple thing I was missing. Obviously, it's this.
Uh-huh.
So I will try to figure out the problem that I couldn't quite get yesterday.
Perfect.
With a
So
clear
you,
head in
you
the
you you
morning.
spend time. Sunlight is kind of streaming into the window
Mhm.
of this cabin, and you work on these books. Alok, you are did you sleep in the shared cabin as well?
Yeah.
Cool. You are waking up, and the pounding in your head is stronger than the the day before. Make a wisdom saving throw for me.
Oh boy. We're
Got
rolling.
this.
I'll
You
roll well.
always roll high.
Hey, that's good.
Well,
That is a
that was
12.
that. I'm gonna
Massive.
tell
Beautiful.
you right now. That was the exact DC I was going for.
Basically a natural 20 for me.
Hey.
That's the best roll you've
With
ever had.
zero modifier too. Uh, you recognize that these are the voices of many dead things. Um, and you are hearing them kind of like a high pitched chittering in the back of your mind, but you are able to kind of steel yourself and not allow it to affect you or your actions. It becomes a faint background hum in the back of your head. It is just white noise to you at this point. You are able to soldier on unaffected by seemingly this idea that a massive death has occurred around you. Cool. How do you spend your morning after grappling with this psychic assault?
Eggs, bacon.
Yeah. Write it off. No, I'll probably once again go to a separate room and you know start the ritual with my god. But this time, maybe I'll spend a little bit more time there and a little more intently before I'll eventually go back to Gala and ask for directions.
Cool. Um, by the way, actually, I'll just whisper it to you. Cool. Uh, Ruby, what are you up to as you're waking up? Um, comfortably in Valera's quarters, this very sparse room, with very little furniture or luxurious trappings. What are you up to?
I'm like congratulating myself. I'm like, girl, you handled that issue, Suzanne. She's like, I showed her who's boss. This is great. Oh my god.
Roll insight on your own
My
internal monologue. No, I'm just kidding. Um,
You're lying to yourself, and you know it.
Cool.
I don't know it.
Do you step out of the room? Do you go anywhere on the ship?
Yeah, I'll probably just walk around, see if everyone's doing okay. Maybe I'll like, because I'm in such a good mood, like saying, kind of interacting more, like, "Yeah, good job. Tie that knot. That looks like a good knot." Just saying,
Make
like,
a charisma
encouraging.
check for me. Make a charisma check for me.
Okay.
It's a good morning. You got this.
Yeah, I'm so good at HR stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's why I chose you.
5.
Oh, bro.
Word has spread of your encounter with Suzanne and how you handled it, and they're a little bit on her side. Not like her actions were justified, but kind of like, hey, you could have handled that better. They're not like openly hostile towards you, but you do receive a number of cold shoulders. They're like kind of receiving your enthusiasm as patronizing or fake. But they're not hostile or anything. Just like, yeah, whatever. We gotta do the
Do
thing.
do I realize this or no?
I would say you were able to realize this. You kind of watch them be this way.
Okay, maybe that wasn't so good then. Okay.
I'll never be nice again.
Mistake once. Okay. Gallet. You. I'm assuming you go to the wheel.
I stumble to the wheel, still a little bit groggy.
Simon is there waiting for you. And he's like, okay, so all right, and then kind of walks you through, like, all right. According to my calculations, the wind is blowing at this speed. Usually, we never had to worry about it because Valera was around, but she's not around anymore. Um, and he's kind of like helping you make adjustments to the flight pattern.
I ask him to get Alok into the watchtower and ask him to bring Ruby.
Alok, in your moments of silence, praying to your god, you're kind of like in the middle of it. You're like very austere and solemn, and the door slams open. We need you, Watchtower, now. Bye.
What?
And then
Okay.
Simon leaves before hearing your response. He's assuming that you are going to um make the right call and that you're gonna do what he said. Um,
Yeah. I'll go to
yeah.
Watchtower.
Cool. You run upside. You meet Gallet up there, and then the crow's nest is available for you with your rope ladder you crafted earlier. Ruby, Simon kind of like passes you, uh, um, uh, as he's heading below deck, and he's like, "Go to the captain." Very brusque. But yeah, you two have now joined Gallet above board. What are your orders, Captain?
Hey Ruby, do you have that wind bag?
Yes.
Alright, just
It's
keep it on
either
standby.
on me or in the room.
Keep it on standby for docking to the harbor. If it has some difficulties, we can use it to at least reposition a bit better. Or just shoot forward and be okay with a little bit of hull damage.
Excellent, excellent.
Okay.
Cool. Buru, are you remaining above deck, or are you going downstairs to feed the animals one more time? What are you up to?
Pretty much been delegated to manning the break, so I'll stay there until he. You guys ever play Sea of Thieves?
Yep.
You know the quick turns. I'm imagining we're gonna have to do something like that.
Just point this out. Lagann is an island that is moving. It is a big
Yeah.
island. Our letting down our anchor will. That's probably a bad idea.
You know what?
Just letting you know.
It's really great thinking.
How do you dock at it then? Do you have to like leash at it?
Yeah, we'd have to tie ropes most likely.
Oh, okay.
That or they have something special. You probably have gotten a general idea that Gallet is flying by the seat of his pants. He didn't even know it was called the helm.
He's trying his best though, which is admirable,
I am
I think.
trying.
Cool. I will say that you all spend a good amount of time like making the preparations that you can, like following the game plan to the best of your ability.
Our
And
good
then
room is out.
yeah, all the hemp. And in the distance, you finally spot it. Lagann is a perfect hexagon. Um, it's this honeycomb structure, and you're coming at it, and you realize, let me see, what's the best way to do this? Let's go back here. Um, uh, draw a shape. Is there a hexagon option?
No.
No,
You can just
that is
draw a
unfortunate.
hexagon.
Yeah, let me just do that. Let me
Aww.
I'm gonna yeah. We're gonna go down here.
Those two are my
Um
two favorite buddy cops.
oh my god. Oh, I see what's happening. Oh god. Please. Don't roast me. Don't roast me, okay? Okay? Pretend that that is a perfect hexagon. Please, just humor me for a second and pretend that that's a hexagon. Okay? Just pretend that's an octagon. Um uh you know what? I probably meant octagon. I probably did mean octagon.
Warforged love octagons. This is a known thing.
Yeah. That's definitely a thing. I will say that you are coming at it from that's an awful color. You are coming at it from this direction. And the port is on this side. Just for a kind of a brief visual demonstration.
And which
Um,
direction is it heading?
it is heading this way.
Hmm.
Gonna start turning right.
Okay. I will say, Buru, as you have put yourself in charge of making these quick turns, make a strength check for me.
Okay.
Does he have advantage because there's other crew members helping him, or is this the thing that everyone's like, "Oh no, Buru's got this"?
I will say advantage because of that 20 earlier. That was like a nat 20, wasn't it? Yeah, you got a
Oh
nat
my
20
god,
earlier.
Another one.
Buru's
Wow.
got this.
Oh my
I-
god.
I rolled bad, so he can roll well. There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love
he
it.
took one for the team. Buru, you got a really good workout in this morning, and
I'm feeling
also
pumped.
as part of your preparations, you went down and started doing like push-ups with the armored snail on your back, like weighing you down. You are properly amped, and maybe something in that special soup has got you a little more wired than usual. You hear like Gallet kind of screams down like like yelling that, or like, we need to turn, and you just make the right. And everyone kind of like sends the signal down like hard turn right, got it, hard turn right, and you're like, go time. You successfully, and like with everything you got, like yank whatever you need to turn in that direction, and the ship veers off as close to 90 degrees as you can get.
Beautiful.
Cool. You are now bearing. Let me. Can I select the thing that I drew? I can. You are now bearing. That is a shape. Sorry. You are now bearing this way. And however, you are not the speed that Suma and Simon had calculated was not quite accurate. So you are lagging behind it quite a bit. So you're not going fast enough. Um, so you have to find a way to move faster or do something else with the ship.
Rude. Ruby.
Did I? Okay, just a little bit, right?
Just a little bit. Make a sleight of hand check for me to see how able you are to open it and then close it really fast. Because this thing like
Okay.
blows open as it comes out. So roll a sleight of hand check for me.
Oh, you totally got
A 3. Okay.
Oh no.
So you managed to get it closed, but after like a significant delay. And now
Where are
you
we?
all have over that's not one whole thing. I'm just gonna move it piece by piece. You guys are like now in this direction.
This is
So you guys kind of like blown right past it, and now the port is within view. Alok, you can see the port. Um, however, you are facing in the wrong direction.
Oh, wait, hold on. Question.
Yes,
So we're facing east right now.
you are facing east, or kind of like northeast, I guess.
Just pointing this. Okay, just let me know. My
Yeah, that's
plan
good. That's good.
was to reverse park this. Is that a thing that the ship is capable of doing? I mean, it's just rope.
oh my god.
Theoretically, Suma, make an intelligence check for me, with advantage.
Oh, with advantage? Let's
Yeah,
hope
yeah.
that helps. Ah!
Okay.
Nice.
Okay. I'm like sitting on the floor of the cabin surrounded by paper, and I'm just like, I gotta figure this out.
Yeah, you get the call in, the captain's plan is to park it backwards. That's never been done before. Kind of only really works when the thing that you're trying to dock at is moving towards you.
Is it not pointing? It's moving this way, right?
Yeah, it is moving directly towards you. So, and Suma, you work out that theoretically, if you can angle it properly, you could either make the ship slow to a crawl, and so the dock comes to you,
Just scoops us
or
up.
you
Yeah.
blow yourself into it one way or another because your sails are not facing in the right direction. So it would be the wind is not going to blow you backwards on its own. But you managed to figure that out. You communicate that to everyone on the crew.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of like,
I just
I
slam my
guess-
book shut and I like race upstairs and be like, this angle.
yeah, I guess that makes sense. Uh, I want to say, Alok, make a perception check for me.
Boy, here we go.
You got this, man. You're on the tower. That makes
You're
it
right.
so much
Beautiful.
It had to be. It had to be.
It's because
Um,
you have no modifier. You see that?
It's
That's
true.
how it works.
It's true.
That is how it works.
From perch above the crow's nest, you are able to like call out. You see in the distance as Lagann is approaching towards you guys. This massive octagonal city, and you can see that there are fine the streets are like grades running through it. Everything's very blocky, and they go up to certain heights. The only embellishments, there's like 4 main towers on it, and there's like archways like across the towers, and you can see down. You can see that there is a vaguely empty dock. There's like 1 or 2 ships there, but there is a spot, and you're able to like let the crew know, okay, I think we're aligned now. I'm pretty sure we are aligned. Uh, Buru, I'm gonna need you to you work out that if you anchor in spot right here, that the dock will come to you, and all you have to do is release the anchor in order to safely dock and then leash the boat. So Buru, with your experience with the anchor, how they taught you how to do it, make another strength check for me, but with advantage.
Okay.
Get a natural 20. Just come on right up. Okay.
Nah.
Oh.
A 12 is good enough.
Okay.
A 12 is good enough. This time around, people do have to help you. Like anybody who's on board, Andros kind of slaps you on the shoulder. He goes, "All right, you can't do all of them alone." And you successfully drop anchor. Manage to slow yourself down, and you are now turned. Oh God, this is not one thing. Um,
Oh,
jeez.
Do we have
Now
to
let's do this.
immediately start raising the anchor so we don't get scooped up and then
Yeah, we're gonna
dragged
have to
along by the
we're gonna
bottom?
have to raise the anchor when it gets close enough.
Yeah, it is. When it gets this close, I'm gonna say it's not too much trouble. Raising the anchor back up in time.
Not enough
I
good
mean,
answers
actually,
on that side.
probably that strength check was more for raising the anchor than dropping it. It's a lot easier to drop the anchor than to raise it up. So I will say that strength check, allied with everybody else. And Alok, you are still like giving like mild, slight directions. Like, all right, I can see it. Just angle a little bit. Angle a little bit, and Suma, you're like, okay, I'm pretty sure, given by all these calculations, we should be okay. Um, uh, uh, Gallet, I'm assuming you're sweating bullets.
I cast Unseen Servant, so when we get to the docks, someone else will be able to have a rope as well.
Cool.
It's just gonna be helping out with the rope stuff.
Awesome. You are another person helping out with the ropes. Ruby, you have successfully allowed the ship, like with the bag, like after that first catastrophic failure, you were able to like shut it in a way that allows the ship to slow down properly, and you guys are now angled pretty damn well. And eventually, the dock
Raise the sails.
comes in, and within reach, and you see that there are Warforged like running up to meet you all. Kind of like they're like raising up with like these levers and cranks, these large like kind of posts that you can like tie your ropes to. Um, and they kind of like wave like kind of as a signal. Um, Alok, you make your way down from the crow's nest. Everybody's kind of on deck now as you are being received at this island. Um, uh, who's helping throwing these ropes, or are you just gonna let the crew do it, as well as the unseen servant?
I'm on the.
Oh, I'm not very
I'll
good at
toss.
it, but
You'll toss a rope. Roll like an attack roll,
Uh, bu- 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 bu-
as if you were trying to hit the stationary target with like a lasso. Ooh, a 7. You miss. And a Warforged has to dive into the water and like retrieve the rope, kind of like climb back up and like help you tie. Um, the ship has now successfully been scooped up. The anchor has been raised, and welcome to Lagann. You all have successfully made it onto the island without any catastrophic damage to the ship. Congratulations.
Huzzah.
Good job. Good hustle, crew. Good hustle. Hey Simon, can you get the gold? We're gonna need it to repair.
Simon is just standing there with like an open logbook and like his quill, like shaking, like, we actually did it. I can't believe we actually did it. Oh yes, and he goes and he retrieves that chest from Aramis's room with the, I believe I said 140 gold, right? Uh,
Let's
I believe it was 140. But just to make sure that we have that straight.
I think there was 10 for each of us and then 70 left over. Simon said there was 70 left over for the crew, and we were like, whoa, 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 whoa.
120. Cool. Wait a second. He brings the chest back out to you, and you guys lower like a back plank, like down the back of the ship, so you can use it as a ramp going down.
Alright, and before that, can I see your
Hmm.
can I see what you have, Simon, for how much everyone needs to be paid? We've hit shore, technically speaking, so they're gonna want their money.
Well, I would say for most people to be happy, they'd probably want at least 2 gold apiece. But if you're all right with maybe people being a little less happy, 1 gold apiece would be good.
How much
Would
do
be
we
fine.
have currently right now? Do we have 70?
You have 120 total. If it's 10 for the each of you, it would be 70, which is enough for like 1 per person. I'm gonna say there's 40 people
Yeah, so
aboard.
enough only for 1 per person. So yeah,
Yeah. Although
they're gonna be a little bit upsetty, but 1 gold per person.
he says, okay, got it. I'll let them know. Honestly, I don't think it's as bad as it could be. That sea shanty yesterday really raised everybody's spirits. I mean, I can't sing personally, but it sounded nice when everybody else was.
You don't have to be able to sing a shanty.
I suppose that's true. And he writes in his. You can see you peek over his shoulder. He's writing in his notes, "Learn how to sing."
Alright, I flick him I flick him on the head and say, take a nap, go to sleep. You've done your job.
Please, there's literally so many things to do. And as he's saying that, he kind of collapses, like face first onto his book, and like just like on the deck of the ship, like immediately snoring as loudly as such a small person can. Cool. You guys have successfully docked. Congratulations. Are we all going to disembark the ship? Or what do we want to do? Kind of at the bottom of this plank, like 4 warforged are standing with their arms behind their backs, kind of waiting to receive you. These to describe what they look like, they are like made mostly of a very peculiar like dark shaded wood, and like the cores of their muscles are made out of this material, and you can see along their joints and kind of on their chest as if armor is this um very clear and light looking material. It's like it looks like metal, but it seems kind of airy, like not quite plastic, but like a plastic like metal is like kind of coating their on shoulder pads and their arms and like on their elbows, like their knees and whatnot, and along their face as well. That same like white material kind of covering where a person's nose and mouth would be, but leaving their eyes, which have no pupil, just kind of like eye shapes and like and light blue light, kind of like dimly glowing in them. Um, that's kind of what they look like. Um, none of them have hair. They're like all kind of bald. But you see, in the one in the front, along their wood of their arms and kind of their legs, is growing like a strange, like red moss.
Nature check. Is that natural?
Sure, roll for it. A 6. It seems you don't know anything about it, but it doesn't look super weird, or dangerous or anything like that. It's just like, it's moss, I guess. Cool. Is everybody going to disembark? How are we gonna approach these robots? I'm gonna say robots.
I move forward to greet them as I am the captain, and I assume captains greet people.
I'll follow behind him, and I assume Ruby.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm coming along too.
Everybody's coming along. Notably, you notice that some of the crew walk up to the plank and then stop immediately at the plank and do not disembark. No one seems to be following you all off the ship, but you are able to walk down the plank. Um, excuse me. The Warforged who has the red moss, he kind of like greets you. And you notice, Buru, that this is the one that had dove for the rope which you had thrown into the water by mistake. And they
I
go,
bow shortly.
"Hello, welcome,
Ahoy there.
visitors. What brings you to our island?"
Repairs and supplies.
"Repairs." And this Warforged looks up and kind of like scans your ship, and they go, "I see. Your ship has suffered great damage. What caused this?
Pirates.
Ah,
Unfortunately,
I see.
pirates.
They have been striking more and more as of late. Of course, they do not touch the island. However, they would be welcome here even if they were. Uh, and they like reach out an arm to shake your hand, but in a very stiff way, as if like I believe this is how people greet each other. But like it seems very foreign to them. But they're kind of like doing it because they saw it sometime. Uh, do you shake their hand?
Oh yeah, these guys are trustworthy.
Cool. I am Shal. Mark 3. Um, uh, and they shake your hand, and you feel a warmth from the wood. It grips your hand and you can feel the life inside of it. Um, and it kind of they kind of shake your hand like way too many times. Like there's an agreed upon how many times you do this. Like it's usually like 2 or 3, but did you do like 7? Like
Very
just
methodical.
yeah. And they finally let go when maybe they sense your discomfort, and they say, "I believe that there is a shipwright aboard the island. Would you like me to take you to them?"
Yeah, that seems like a darn good idea.
Very well. Um, and one of the other Warforged kind of turns and they say, "Pardon, is that not the one that associates with Tink?" And Shal says, "There is no matter. The dwarf is separate from the strange one. We will take them." And the other one that had talk is like, "You may take them. We will continue on our business." And the other Warforged kind of like disperse, having successfully helped you all dock, pleased that no damage has been done to their island. And as you walk with Shao through the streets of this place, you are able to see that it's a very rigidly structured place. Everything is pinned straight and painstakingly like angled and calculated. Not a square inch is wasted, and the whole place, um, you feel that it's moving. You feel that this island is actively like going along the water, um, and that the entire island is just this massive city, and that the floor of it, the ground of it, is made out of the same wood that the Warforged themselves were made out of. Um, uh, a human might be freaked out to live on an island made of skin and muscle, but Warforged do not have those kinds of qualms. Um,
That sounds
uh,
cool.
Are you
yeah.
saying that we're sort of on like a faceless turtle dragon here, made out of Warforged bits? Like
Sure. It
this is
is.
a
It
living
is.
island?
It is not living. It is just made out of wood.
Okay.
It's made out of the thing
And
it's made out of, so it would be akin to skin for us to them, I assume.
yeah, it would be akin to skin for people. Any of you can make a nature check on this wood if you like. And 8, 13. I'm gonna say everybody who rolled like a 10 or higher are able to recognize this as storm wood, which is a special kind of wood that is waterproof. It's waterproof. It like expands slightly when in contact with water, and it survives high pressures. It can. It's basically perfect for um, something
Deep
that is going to
diving.
be, yeah, deep diving or at sea for a considerable amount of time. Um, shall not much for conversation. Uh, takes you over to this like perfectly square, like large workshop looking building.
Before
You can, yeah.
before we leave, I'll shout, "Hey, Andros, you're in charge while we're away."
Andros is like, "Got it, boss. Simon's knocked out anyway." Um, uh, and it's like a very perfectly shaped door, rectangular knob. He knocks upon it, and they knock upon it, and Shao says, "Sir Orin," and you hear a gruff voice, "Yeah." And Shao continues, "There are visitors in need of a shipwright. That used to be your trade, was it not?" And the voice from within goes, "Fuck, yeah, let him in." Um, and Shao kind of like looks towards you guys and says, "It seems that my purpose here has been served," and walks away. And the door opens, and you see a grumpy-looking dwarven man, um, who's kind of wearing these like overalls and a sleeveless shirt, and you can see that his arms, both of his arms, are entirely made out of storm wood, in the similar fashion as the Warforged. And you can see like as his skirt rides up that like there are like some scarring around like kind of this area, like the socket of his shoulder, where like this wood is kind of like growing into it a little bit, or is hooked onto his shoulder. But the rest of him is like just normal like dark brown skin.
Hey there. We are in a position that we're looking for a shipwright right now, and heard you also happen to know Aramis.
He kind of like looks up at you and squints his eyes, and he says, "Well, I'll be damned. That's his hat, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. New captain.
The hell happened to him?
He abandoned ship.
Abandoned the Reaper. Well, I never thought I'd see the day. And he gave the hat to you?
Yeah, it was dire circumstances, so I guess he thought maybe it still needed a captain. We were dealing with the Red Wraith, so
And
our ship is pretty banged up.
he pauses at this. Right. Uh, so I have a question for the lot of you. How did y'all manage to land the ship? How did you manage to dock it? Like, just the five of you?
The crew didn't abandon ship.
Now, how does that work? He kind of scratches his head, and he goes, uh, "Well, all right." And he kind of like, "Come in," and he then leads you into this workshop that he's working in, and you notice that there is like a tube along his walls that kind of snakes along down it, kind of goes down. And there's like a little receptacle at the end of the tube, um, and you hear like "Boop," and like a small sphere like rockets through the tube, kind of clatters into this receptacle, and he goes, "All right, go ahead, take a seat, take a seat." Um, and he sits down in the chair and he looks at all you and he says, "What's the damage?"
All around.
All around. Got it. Understood.
Magical
Understood.
damage.
Magical damage. Well,
I think one of the
that's
cannons
certainly
is gone.
cannons. Cannons. One of them's broken. All right. Fun fact: is it the one on the right side, the middle one?
Mm.
That's been broken for
Yeah.
16 years. Uh,
Have the
uh,
hatches also been broken, or is that a new phenomenon?
that seems new to me.
Okay.
That seems new to me for certain. For certain. Honestly, it's disrespectful. Listen, I've been a shipwright for many years, right? And the Reaper is a fine specimen. Truly is. Craftsmanship unlike anything you'd ever seen. And the way that air mistreats this ship, or used to, I suppose, and the way you're treating it now, apparently, is criminal. If they had prisons on this island, I'd have y'all locked up immediately.
To be fair, second day of being in charge of it, and I think we're going in the right direction since we're going to the best ship right around.
Wink.
You
Oh
like
my
kind of
gosh.
he being a dwarf has a beard. I didn't say that, but I feel like it was implied.
Yeah,
He
it's-
strokes his beard and he says,
there-
you know,
well,
you know, that ain't half bad. I can see perhaps why Aramis took a liking to you, or perhaps a disliking to you, given that he signed over his ship to you. Tell me, you got a first mate? Who's the first mate?
I started stroking my beard too. It's me.
I choose well.
I see. I see. Always good to see another dwarf in a primary position on a ship. You know, a lot of people, they relegate dwarves to, men in the sails or doing the hard labor. You know what I mean? But we make fine navigators. Let me tell you that we make fine navigators. All right, and also fine first mates. I was a first mate once upon a time until I, gave up the ship
Insight
sailing
check.
business.
I don't
Go for
believe
it.
No kidding.
13. He was a first mate once upon a time. He was. And you get the sense as he kind of shifts his weight that perhaps he stopped sailing actively for the same reason that he doesn't have arms made of flesh. Just kind of the way he like talks about it, and he's like rolling his shoulder.
Yeah.
And he says, "All right, well, do you all have a navigator?"
Simon.
That'd be him.
I see, because I imagine if Aramis is gone, Valer is also gone. Understood. Who's keeping the books?
That would be me.
I see. Makes sense. Not that I'm stereotyping elves or whatnot, but I can see you are actively scribbling in a book right now. I have no idea what that's
I
about.
actually know it's Ayla.
Your observations are astute. I will cop to this stereotype.
Well, what about you two? And he gestures at Buru and Alok. I think we haven't covered that yet, right? Yeah. What is your roles? What do you all do?
I stay in the crow's nest and keep an eye out.
All right. You look like you might be the type to do that. You have no idea what that means, but he
Yeah,
seems to
no.
believe it very heartily.
I'm definitely not.
You have a ranged weapon.
Yeah. Doesn't have that much range though.
I have
But
eyes.
And you,
I just wash the dishes.
you know what? Dishwashers don't get enough credit, right? Right? Because everyone wants to eat. Everyone wants to eat. No one wants to cook, and less of all, nobody wants to wash dishes. It's messed up, is what if you ask me. Um, and he says, all right. I suppose I'll have a look at the damages. And you all walk him back to the docks. Well, he walks you there because he has a much more better grip of this place than you guys do.
While walking
But it's
there, is there?
yeah.
So okay, so wood is that? Are the buildings made of the same material? Are they made of different stuff?
It seems that everything here is made out of the same material.
Everything's
Waterproof
brown.
wood. Yes. Some of it has been painted. But not seemingly with no regard to aesthetic. It's kind of like this is a bright blue box of a building right next to a bright yellow one. Actually, that's not too bad, but there's like a pink one next to it. Like it's as if the Warforged were like, I heard that colors were good, and like, but there's no concept of color theory whatsoever. But it does look nice and bright here and there. It's a very aesthetically mismatched place.
Are there any like animals or children running about?
Um, you don't. You very actually make a perception check for me. Yeah. A 16. You see here and there as you were walking through. When Shao led you to Oren's workshop. He had taken you to kind of like further into the city, but closer to the docks, you do notice that it stops being only Warforged walking about, but here and there there's a human. Here and there there's an elf. Here and there there's a dwarf. They seem pretty rare, like a small minority, but they have a much larger presence, like closer to the dock. Um,
Any children Warforged?
Not a whole lot of children.
Okay.
There are no children Warforged. No. There might be a
Um,
singular child of a human, like accompanied by their parent, but yes.
do all the other races have like kind of like what that dwarf guy has, where it's like they have a piece of their bodies that are like made out of the stormwood?
Um, from what you can see, no. Um, maybe there's like one person, but it's not like they usually have it. You maybe like pass by like one grizzled pirate looking elf woman whose leg you can see that there below the calf, her leg has been kind of uh outfitted with like a wooden leg instead of like a peg leg, like a fully functional like wooden calf. But this is not the norm. Uh and his name is Oren Oddhammer.
Odd hammer?
Yes, or an Oddhammer.
So, Orin, is
Yep.
the Reaper your ship? Is she your girl?
Nah, I mean, she's not one of mine. She's and he kind of gets quiet for a second, and he says, a relic from an older methodology of shipmaking, one which I never quite was able to subscribe to. But she is a beauty, in that school of shipwriting. She is exemplary in that fashion, and she has survived a very long time. Um, uh, in no small part thanks to my contributions to strengthening her supports and building up masts and repairing what needs to be repaired now and then. Of course, I haven't seen the Reaper in quite some time now, but let me see. And probably you guys come up close enough to the dock. Um, and eventually kind of looks up and he says, Palea's ashes. What have you done to this ship?
Once again, the Red Wraith. You used some magic. Barely got away due to a frog.
All right, listen. I simply do not have the time, right, for fairy tales.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, the Red Wraith doesn't exist. It's a legend.
Okay.
Second of all, if you got jumped by some pirates, right, and had to flee for one reason or another, you can just say that.
I mean, technically that is still true. Yes, we did flee from pirates.
Okay, good. Now that makes sense. Keep saying that thing instead of the other thing you were saying previously.
I just thought you might want to know.
He comes aboard and the crew treat him like some of them kind of know him, give like a knowing nod, and others kind of like stranger on the ship, don't know who that guy is, but he kind of like inspects the damages. And you can see like he puts his hand like on the wood and like his finger transforms into like a blade and like cuts off like a fragment of it and like kind of stores it in like this little thing that comes out of his palm. And he's like kind of taking samples and like kind of like eyes sharp, like looking at assessing the damages. And he comes back to you and he says, listen, the damage here is pretty grave. Uh, this ship is to use some shipwright parlance, some terminology. The Reaper is fucked currently. Uh, it is not in good shape. It's gonna take some time to bolster it back up to its former glory. Uh, Not to mention gold.
Oh, we are definitely
Um,
super swimming in gold, like 30.
do we have like ship insurance? I'm pretty sure we're covered. buy
Mhm.
some kind of boat insurance.
I'm pretty sure it was actually in our contracts for Shield of Celestia. I think we might be able to forward the payment to them.
You want me to forward the payment
Mm-hmm.
to the organization
Yeah.
that presumably had tasked you to prevent the ship from taking damage
Mm-hmm.
to pay for the damage which has occurred to the ship. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, yeah. I think they'll have other things on their mind when that news gets to them.
Other things on their mind. Well, there's always things on the mind of the shield. Like, how to line their pockets more.
Yeah. Gwaine is dead. Captain Gwaine. So he was on the ship.
I'm gonna be fairly honest with you, son. Captain, that name means nothing to me.
Okay.
But I'm sure whatever it was that happened, that it was a true tragedy.
It was.
Sounds like an old shield guildmaster, so undoubtedly he probably ate too much of some fancy gala and choked to death. But, tragedy's a tragedy no matter who it happens to. Listen, this job, being that it is the Reaper, and Aramis being an old buddy of mine, I would consent to giving you a discount to my usual services. So it'll only run you about 1,000 gold.
Hmm.
Let me confer with my
Hmm.
associates. Give us one moment. We walk away. We ain't got that kind of money.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Anyone here good at counterfeit?
I don't think we have
I
enough
don't know if we can
products of
make coin.
anything to counterfeit. So, just putting this out there,
Um,
there are two options we have here. One, try to find jobs
hmm.
here, or try to see if he needs anything so we can help out and reduce the price even more. Two, get the work done, somehow make sure that he gets paid at the end, blast away with the wind bag.
Oh my god.
There's I think we should try the job thing first, and
I
the
yeah, I
windbag
prefer that.
as a backup plan. Or I look to the left and the right. Are there any other ships in harbor?
Yeah, there are two ships, but they are specifically Warforged ships. They are very sleek. There's not a whole lot of cabin space because they don't really need to have rooms to sleep in. They can sleep just standing up in a state of low energy usage. Um, so it's not a very livable thing, and you can spy on the decks. There are these very complicated machines and levers and stuff that make sense to them, and perhaps could only be accessed using their particular biology. Seems like a strange word to use here. Biotechnology. That may prove difficult to use.
Or other thing, apprehend for the Shield of Celestia one of their ships, and perhaps convince the one weird Warforged around here that Shal was talking about into showing us how to work it, and we just ditch the Slim Reaper. Just ditch it outright. We leave. All of these are
That can be Plan Z.
Plan Z.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have many plans. Probably should go with Plan A, which is
Uh,
finding a job.
maybe we could get him to knock down the price if we provide materials. Like, I don't know. Is there there a tree, or is there places to get resources?
This is a floating island that is man-made.
I don't.
How are they getting the wood?
Yeah, exactly.
How are they indeed?
Are there any trees?
There are no trees on this island.
It's
No.
hard to grow a tree from wood. Okay, well, I guess we'll just ask around for the money right now. Good thing is Shal did not say that there was, any tariffs or prices for docking here or staying here. So we're gonna ride that out. Avoid avoid them at all costs just to make sure that we don't have to pay.
That's smart.
And we'll just put this on hold. Look around. Maybe we can talk to like the governor of Lagann. Maybe see if they need any help, and maybe investigate the one weird warforge. If they're ostracizing one person, that person may want something. Plan?
Friends.
Friends. Hey, if they pay enough.
You hear a voice from behind you. Listen, I understand that I've been spending my time, my company, mostly in the presence of robots for like the past 15 years. However, has societal norms changed to the extent that like a group of 5 people who were previously talking to somebody could just break out in a huddle for like a solid couple of minutes without acknowledging the person they were talking to previously?
Yeah.
We can excuse ourselves from the conversation.
Ah, that's valid.
We're polite.
He kind of goes off and kind of like runs his hand along the mask and see like where the wood has been worn and like where like parts of it has been ripped off, and he's like, honestly, it's a fucking miracle that this thing arrived here in one piece.
It's a miracle, alright.
Would
Uh,
would he consider bringing down the price if he like had evidence that the Red Wraith was actually the one that attacked us?
make an insight check to see
So
how.
much information he overloads.
Are his arms free of the red moss?
Yeah.
Okay.
A 9.
Oh my god!
You have no idea if that would help or not. You really have no clue.
Okay.
I mean, it's one of those like, I mean, you could try it if you wanted to, but like you don't really have a firm grasp on how that would affect him if it does at all. You see him, and he kind of like marches by himself to the end of the plank and says, "Right, so do we have an accord, or are you gonna let this beauty of a ship crumble to nothing the next time you try to sail it?"
We're gonna put you on hold. I think it's gonna stand here for a little bit longer. We're gonna get a good idea of the area. We'll contact you if we need you.
Listen, probably not that bad. Mechanics always try to upsell you.
My father
They-
was.
Oh
they
yeah,
do.
could we like
He did
haggle?
this.
Sure.
We'd be like,
Roll a persuasion check for me.
It's gonna be hard to bring it from 1,000 to 30, but
Yeah.
Oh, we got this.
15. What do you say to him? Like, what? How do you haggle? How do you try and convince him to bring this down for you?
so from one dwarf to another, we're probably both, got kicked out of our clans. We're both first mates. Solidarity, representation. Can't really be first mate without a ship. Would you be willing to knock down the price to like 300 points?
Stares at you blankly. Anybody else can also roll a persuasion check and join in on this negotiation.
Yeah, I walk in. Wow. So your refusal to help is going to continue the stereotype of dwarves not being first mates. That's a shame.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else gonna join in?
I don't think Alok would. It's not his thing.
No, I wouldn't either.
No, I'm not. But it would be really funny if we were just like, probably can't do it because he doesn't have arms.
Oh.
Ooh.
Okay, I mean you didn't see that actually, but that'd have been incredibly funny. He looks between you, Ruby, and you, Gallet, kind of glances up at the hat that's sitting on top of your head, and he says,
I start twirling it.
500, no more talks. And he walks off the plank back into the city.
That was a good call, Ruby. I like that. That's the initiative
Pretty
I was
good.
looking for. All right. 470 gold. How does one get in a short amount of
He
time?
definitely, you get the sense from the way that he said that he was out upselling you quite a bit, just because he thought he could get away with it. This seems much closer to a fair price, given the damage and perhaps maybe his own affection for the ship.
Well, nothing's gonna change as long as we're on the ship, so let's go find some jobs.
First, I'd like to check around, see if there are any like stores on the island, specifically woodworking stores.
Uh, sure. So you all, I'm gonna say all five of you kind of go into the island and like start exploring. Maybe you designate like maybe the ship, meet back at the ship at this time or whatever it might be. Um, Tell me what each of you are looking for. So, Buru, you want to look for like a place that is woodworking that would have like wooden materials, that type of thing.
Yeah, I'm interested in finding a musical instrument of some kind.
Sweet. Can I get everybody else just so I know like generally like who's gonna be around who?
I'm gonna try to find that one weirdo robot.
Cool.
I'd like to trade for that.
I'd probably stick with Gallet, but if we see a woodworking store,
Break off. Okay. Buru, as you are traveling in this group, you are like waylaid for a moment by a sign which is unique amongst the signs that you've seen so far because it is not written in total like block lettering. It's written in a nice like swirly fancy script, and it says Flotsam and Jetsam. Um, you kind of you push you open the door. There's like a little chime as you walk in. These wind chimes are knocking against the door, um, and you see a minotaur woman kind of standing there looking bored at the front of the store, and you see like sitting um on the counter is a halfling man, and the halfling goes, "Hello, welcome to Flotsams." And then like there's just silence, and he kind of, please, please, just once, please, come on, please. And the Minotaur woman goes, and Jetsams. uh, and you look. They give you the rundown of what they sell here. They collect like driftwood that kind of from like the wreckages of ships. Um, that kind of like wash up onto the shore or are collected. Um, and they fashion it into different things. And basically, yeah. It's to the point where you're hunting sharks. And the halfling goes, so what are you interested in? What can I get you?
hello, my name is Buru. I'm of the B5, and I will do a like crazy pose and just hold it for an uncomfortable amount of time. And I'm like, I'm looking for something to play with, just an instrument of some kind.
Simultaneously, the man says, "I love that," and the woman says, "That was the worst fucking thing I've ever seen." Kind of like in unison, they say that, just like two completely different uh uh vibes coming from them. But they go, okay, something. The halfling man says, "Okay, so you're." Ooh,
You
look at
gone?
this. I'm gonna continue. If that's cool. Uh, the halfling goes, "Listen, what is your price range looking like?"
Cheap, but something that I can sing along with.
Cheap. Okay. And he runs in and he comes back and he says, "This is about the cheapest musical instrument we have. It's only 1 gold piece. I understand that it's made out of driftwood, but it plays all right." Yeah, he shows you like in this case, there's a flute. Um, Nice woodwind instrument. It seems to be made very lovingly. He has made this driftwood creation look just like an artisan instrument, but perhaps the
Okay.
sound quality is not as great.
I might be looking for something a little bit more advanced, something I can use my fingers on.
Well, first of all, you use your fingers to play the flute as well as your mouth. But and he goes back and he comes out. This one's gonna run you a little bit more money, but I do have a lyre. And he pulls out a lyre and he says, "It is 11 gold."
Can I talk you down to 7 gold?
Roll like his persuasion check.
Okay.
That's a nat one.
Yep.
He says, "You know what? You know how hard it is to sell musical instruments on an island where the majority of the population does not have mouths and does not really have a distinct appreciation for the arts? Some of them do. Some of them do. I'm not stereotyping. Some of them do. Especially, definitely a new phenomenon, though. I am not lowering the price."
Well, I'm sorry that I'm the first person with a mouth to try to buy an instrument from you. I'm
He's the
not
first
sure
one to
why
try
you
to heck.
sell flutes. And I'll leave, and I'll try to catch up with the group.
Okay. You all catch up. You're all do any of you recall what the robot you're looking for's name is? It was mentioned very briefly. Tink. Yes. Okay. So how are you going about searching for them?
I'm just gonna ask people on the street. Yeah. Hey, you happen to
Okay.
know a Tink?
You approach a warforged who is you can tell just from looking at them that their the wood comprising their body is wet and has maybe soaked in some moisture, and adorning their body in kind of spiraling patterns up their arms and down their legs is green moss. Um, and they go, "You are referring to Tinkerton,
Yes.
the medic."
I'm looking for Tinkerton, yes.
His address is in the 4th quadrant. You may find him, and he kind of spells you out. Like he kind of gives you like point by point like directions. It's a grid system, so it's not super hard. Is like he lives on the corner of 4th and 25th Avenue, uh, and kind of points you the way. It seems that he knew exactly who you were talking about, and he says, "I don't understand. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with you. Am I
We're
incorrect in making that assumption?"
No, we're all normal. We're on official Shield of Celestia business. He is important for our affairs. Only in this mission. Do not worry about it. Sort of a
A
hush hush.
warforged,
Yeah.
important in the shield's affairs. You can tell that this rankles him them a little bit. Oh God. Uh, um. Oh, we lost her. Oh. Um, and he says, "Fuck me." They say,
Whoa, this got real human for a second.
"Fuck me." Tink.
So,
God.
he's the guy?
Um. They go. Such arrangements have historically not ended well for our kind, but I can imagine that you will treat him well.
Also, just side note, what's with the moss growing on some of your arms? Is it just natural?
They look down at their arms and they say, "Oh, you mean this? Well, it has been sort of a trend to adorn our bodies with different types of plants that will grow on our wood in order to express individuality.
I like that. Alright.
I think green is the best color. This is not based on any objective assessment, but I like green." Um, and this kind of seems to cheer them up, and y'all go ahead and head off to the address that Tinkerton is supposedly staying at. Um, Can I have everyone roll a perception check?
Is oh wait, let me check something. How do you turn it off? How do you mute someone on Roll20?
I'm unsure.
Oh, okay, no, I did it. This is. I don't know if I should. Yeah, I have to mute Vivian because I hear like an echo from you through her on Roll20.
Oh.
Is it on Roll20?
Yeah, it's from Roll20 that's causing the issue.
Oh. I don't even hear anything from Roll20 at all.
For me,
I've been hearing an echo from everyone through.
Oh no! Yeah, I'm hearing mine now.
Is it me?
Yeah, it's echoing through your noise. It's been doing it. I haven't been bothered by it though.
Is that better? I don't know.
Someone yell. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, no, we're good.
No.
We're good now. We're good now.
We're
You
good?
wouldn't echo.
Okay.
You wouldn't echo.
Awesome.
Nope, there it is.
Cool.
Yeah, that's me. All right.
Oh, maybe I should turn down my volume. Is that better? Like someone else talk.
Hmm.
Sound better.
Cool.
It's not echoing for me at least.
Okay, that is a nat 20. Burusuma and Gallet, you do not notice anything. However, Ruby, you being very well acquainted through your god, who is a goddess of storms, with kind of the air and the wind and the shifting of the weather, you feel an almost imperceptible breeze run fully over your body. And it kind of like you noticing it sends a bit of a chill like through you. And you look around, and with that nat 20, you are able to discern where this breeze has come from. Uh, you look off, and in an alleyway, you see a hooded figure kind of leaned against it, who seems to be watching the five of you as you approach Tinkerton's home.
Is this Eris? Or is this like someone else who also has like the wind cloak?
You do not recognize this person. They do not seem to be anybody that you recognize. They don't have like the physique for it or like the form.
Okay.
They are relatively tall, maybe around 6 feet in height, and they have their cloak seems to be made of a similar material to the one that Valaire had on. However, this one, instead of going all the way down to his feet, the way that Valaire's did, it cuts off like those hoods that like come down like right here and like have a hood. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, he seems to be wearing one of those and is kind of just like hanging back in the shadow.
Could this potentially be her brother? The one that was mentioned in her letter?
Who knows? Do you inform the rest of your crew? Who, I will say, Alok, you probably feel a slight breeze, but think nothing of it.
Yeah, what the heck? I'll tell my group. I'll say like, hey, 6 o'clock or whatever o'clock it is. There's a guy watching us, who may or may not have a wind cloak. Definitely not Valaire, but I wouldn't rule out the possibility that it could be that brother, that she mentioned in that letter.
Very low chance.
Does
But also very low amounts of wind cloak. Wait, is it? So we know for sure her brother's a wind cloak?
We
You
don't.
know that they're related, but you don't know if he had the same powers as her.
Wind cloaks pretty sparse around in general. Like I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying the likelihood is somewhat similar to them being the Gallan Republic king. You know, like it's like a roll of the dice. Technically, wind cloak.
Okay, well, there's one way to find out. Is there
He is
someone
creeping
who's
on us.
stealthy? Huh?
He is creeping on us.
Doesn't seem to notice that. I don't know if anyone else has like looked over. I definitely have. Does it seem like they've noticed that we are all looking at them?
It's just
You all kind of like collectively do that thing where it's like, all right, nobody look. That people do instinctively. They're like,
Yeah.
don't
He's a
look.
cool guy.
Uh, and he fully he kind of like takes a step back because he's surprised that you all noticed him. And he stoops forward, uncovers his hood. And the first thing that you notice about him is that on his forehead is in is like in green ink carved into it is an eye. However, unlike the symbol that you had seen on the red wraith, his kind of his reavers and whatnot, and uh, it does not have a swirl in the middle. It really has like three lines, kind of like that, swirling into each other. Instead of like a vortex, it's kind of like a swirl, like a gentle swirl
like
on
an
his
evening.
forehead. Let me here. Let me. Uh, this is not going to be super great, but listen, this is not. Pat. Okay, it's really hard to draw with a mouse. Okay, um, but you get the gist. You
Yeah.
get the gist. I'm assuming. Let me.
So similar to the Windcloak squirrels, but in an eye.
Indeed. He approaches you and he says, "Forgive me. Were you frightened by my presence?"
No.
Not gonna lie, it was a little creepy.
Yes, I can tell that it was. I'm so sorry. And he bends, like he bows very dramatically. His head flopping over his head, and he rises back up. Um, uh, I merely wanted to come greet you in person. Oh, he's an elf. He's an elf.
Half elf.
Um, from the looks of it, full elf. And he says, I merely wanted to greet you all. Um, I imagine you've had quite a tough journey.
Yeah, to a degree.
To a
We
degree.
handled it though. We did handle it.
Right. I mean, you are alive after all. Not
Yeah,
very many could have survived what you survived.
and not just that, but we're sort of known. We're the B5.
How, if I may ask, are you aware of what we survived?
Mhm.
Well, you see, um, he kind of like parts his hair back, like bringing that eye on his forehead into full view. Um, I am even among my people a rarity. I am what is called a windseer, and there is only maybe one in a generation to be blessed with such a talent, but it has given me the ability to sense things in the wind, things that are happening elsewhere, things that haven't happened yet, and even sometimes, and you all feel like that the kind of the breeze wash over you again, and he says, the emotions of the people near me. For example, I can tell that many of you are very confused, although one needn't have my sort of ability to tell that sort of thing. And that one over there, and he points directly at you, Alok. He says, there is something bothering you, isn't there?
Yeah. There it is.
The voices of the dead, are they loud?
You can tell that. Yeah, they are loud.
I hear them too sometimes. And he kind of like, you can tell that he's not one for social graces, and his head is kind of just like swiveling around, like looking at each of your faces directly.
Hey, I'm sorry, but we didn't actually introduce. We said our group name. I'm Gallet. I'm Captain Abate. Otherwise, this is Suma, Buru, Ruby, first mate, and Alok.
Oh, yes, names. He bows again. He says, I am Aurelius. In the custom of my people, I do not have a last name, but you may call me Aurelius Windseer if you like.
Would you happen to know of Valar?
Valer.
Sorry,
Yes.
Valar. Yeah.
Yes. We sort of grew up together, as it were. And this is the first time you've seen him like genuinely show emotion. He kind of laughs about it. He says, "She is a remarkable woman and an extremely talented windcloak.
Yep.
Mhm.
He senses that this is a very awkward interaction and that he's just interrupted something pretty important. And he says, "Right. Well, I do not mean to delay you any longer, but I was wondering if you've seen Valera's brother. He is with you, is he not?"
Why
He's
would you?
not.
Yeah. Why would you think he was?
I could have sworn I sensed his presence.
Insight.
Yeah,
Well,
me too.
Roll it.
this is a little. I think I'm also
What's wrong with this guy?
wondering what the hell
You know
he's
what?
talking
He
about.
seems like a cool dude. He's just a bit
Nice.
confused.
Buru's really interested in the technique of sensing people's energy.
Suma and Alok, you get the sense that this guy's being very genuine. He really thinks that Valera's brother arrived on the ship that you all came on.
On the ship. Okay.
Or at least that he's
Well,
nearby.
Mhm.
in my robes, I have been keeping the shards because I do not trust anyone else to have them. So I will pull out the one that was in Valera's little box,
Mhm.
and I'll just say, does this have any significance to you?
His face pales at the sight of this, and he says, "How did you come across this object?"
This particular one was in Valera's possession on the ship.
And
She
he bequeathed
has
it to
been
you.
apparent. She has been looking for him for, it sounded like, from her letters, some time. But as far as we know, he was never aboard when we were.
I have been looking for him as well. I mean, there is not many. Um, there were not many people in our village in the Gallan Republic, and um, when the Aliceris disappeared, we all went to look for him.
Do you think that he was on the Reaper?
I could have sworn I sensed his presence, but perhaps it is just that shard that you're holding that gave me the impression. I ran up to meet you as soon as I could because it didn't seem as if uh, the folks on the ship were too keen on my presence.
What were the circumstances of Aliceris's disappearance?
Well, it was 15 years ago. Um, both Aliceris and Valere were sent to retrieve something from the
Wait.
woods. Yes?
Oh no,
Mhm.
that's Gallet said that out loud because Tylen, just recognized that name. So he's just like, wait, and then just deep stare.
Uh,
Um, Aurelius turns to you, Gallet, and he says, "You recognize the name, do you not? Have you heard it before?"
Yeah, yeah.
Where?
I was actually I was previously one of his crewmates.
Roommates? I
Crew,
don't understand.
crew. I was on the ship. I was on.
He was on a ship?
Yeah, he was.
Willingly, like, not against his will. He was willingly a
Yeah,
part of a crew.
he was sort of emphatic about being on the crew, like top-notch guy.
This is worrying indeed. I can tell that you are not lying to me, but I don't understand.
Why
He
would
turns
anyone
back to
do that?
you. He turns back to you, Ruby, and he says, "You had asked about the circumstances, right?"
mhm.
And he says, uh, "There was there was one there was one evening when Valere was sent to retrieve something from the woods, and um, but it just so happened that that day I had encouraged her to try a certain trick with the wind that she hadn't mastered yet. Told her I saw a vision of her doing and performing the trick successfully, but something I must have been mistaken somehow, and she injured herself. And so instead of her going into the woods, um, Aliceris went instead, and he never returned. Uh, when we finally gathered a search party to go and find him, all that we found was that shard that you're holding. And he gestures to you, Suma, and he says, uh, from that moment, I picked up the shard, I gave it to Valere, and she swore to me that she would hold on to it until she found her brother. I don't understand why he would have chosen to live life on the seas instead of returning home. Did he never speak of his heritage?
Not really. Where was he from?
He was from the Gallan Republic. We were You're going to laugh, but there is a village not too far from Palestrom called the Village of the Wind. So named because the highest population of Windcloaks seem to be born around there. But Alacervis was not a Windcloak. He should not have been the one to go into those woods. And yet, and you can tell without needing to sense his emotions that he blames himself for why it was not Valere, someone much more capable of defending herself, that went into the woods that night. Uh,
Chino? Just question from Gallet's memory. He never
yes,
showed any wind cloak powers, did he?
never. He was not a Windcloak whatsoever. He just was came from that village where two very powerful, talented ones happened to be born, but he was not. And in fact, you don't get the sense that he ever mentioned where he was from. Never talked about it for any reason. Um, Never mentioned it. Never showed any sense of like, ah, yes, the Gallen Republic, or
Yeah.
like any kind of that beyond, like I know what that is because it's on the map.
I uh I I apologize. I think it might just be happenstance then that I happen to know him because maybe it just same name possibly. He was not a wind cloak whatsoever. He was, you know what? This might make it easier. Elves usually don't have last names. He was just his last name was Lytharis.
Hmm. Then perhaps it is not the same person after all.
Yeah, it's not a guy with like long blonde hair, sharp eyebrows. well, not stern face, but always smiling. Like not him. That's not different guy, right?
It has been 15 years. I do not wish to confirm or deny that, because at this point I can sense my own emotions and I can tell that I am compromised in this moment, and that my feelings towards the matter might make me lean in my assessment one way or another, and I would rather not cause any confusion in that regard. Thank you for your help. I It appears that I was mistaken. Um, does anybody else want to say anything to him before he goes?
Yeah, I'd like to catch him on the way out and ask, Valere, her departure from the ship was sudden and in the face of grave danger, but and I don't know about any of my companions, but I would very much like to speak with her again about this. Do you know where she would go in a situation like that?
Closes his eyes. And Alok, you were also approaching because you also want to ask something, right? And the wind picks up. He does not seem to have like physical control over it the way that Valere has. It more like it comes to him in a much more gentle way, in like a long, slow, and steady breathe. And he closes his eyes and he kind of breathes it in, and he says, "If I can sense her moving towards the capital, Palestrom, that is, for whatever reason, but she is safe and alive."
It's good to hear.
And
Thank you.
Alok, what did you want to ask?
I'm sorry. You said that you can also hear the voices, the dead people.
Indeed. You see, when things die, they utter their last breath, and to most people's ears, this may fade and fizzle, but in fact, it remains on the wind and is carried great distances. In fact, mass deaths have a much stronger effect on the winds themselves than many realize. All of the power of that combined last breath of all those living things, they mix and they meld, and they have the power to change the tides themselves.
I don't think
You seem
that's.
to me. Go ahead, sorry.
This doesn't sound like exactly what I have. I think. I don't know. I don't
I
listen
see.
to the wind.
You seem to me as if you've had to make a very difficult choice lately.
Yeah.
Or I may be confusing present and future.
People.
Anyways, he turns, and he takes one last look at you, and he says, "I sense danger in your future. Take care." And he walks away. Um, you guys can continue walking up to Tink's home, or you can discuss amongst yourselves as you like.
Yeah. On the way, I would be just, a little bit wondering, like, hey, Locke,
Yeah.
dead people?
Uh. Yeah. Crazy thing, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't want to say things that you guys would think I was crazy, but
No, it's yeah. Lots of crazy things have been happening. So,
true.
maybe just as a general thing for the party, let's just assume we'll believe each other. Like, if you just say, "Hey, Loch Ness Monster is my dad," like, chances are higher than before.
Is that the case for you? Is your father the
Oh,
Loch Ness monster?
nah,
Okay.
solid dude, but nah, he wasn't the Loch Ness Monster.
Okay.
uh,
Yeah. It. I don't know. It hasn't been too bad. So if it becomes a problem, I'll let you guys know.
okay, just wondering, do ghosts tell you interesting things? Are they like gossipy?
Hard to make out what they're saying exactly. It's a lot of whispers at once, usually. It really just gives me a headache more than anything.
Nah. Were you always able to talk to ghosts?
No.
Okay, I won't pry any further if it's making you uncomfortable.
Yeah. I'd rather not talk about it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Maybe another time. When
Yeah,
we're not in the middle of a city full of work.
I'll keep an eye out for ghosts. You're the man in the middle.
Sure.
I'm just gonna from now on keep an eye out for ghosts. Doubt I'm
It's
gonna
got
see
those
Valid.
one, but I'm gonna be looking for one.
Cool. Do you guys want to just knock on the door?
Yeah.
Cool.
I cast
You-
fireball.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, multi-class. You
Meteor
all
swarm.
you all knock at the door of Tink's house, and the door like slides open instead of swings open, and you see a very like a tall, like gangly looking warforged, like much closer to a tree than the other ones. He has like long arms, and his fingers are like spindly, and they kind of like, as he is like standing there, they kind of like move around and they twist like kind of like configure themselves into tiny little tools and whatnot. And he says, "Oh, hello, visitors. You all seem intact, so this is strange."
Yes, hi there. We've just been exploring your lovely city, and we happened to hear some great things about you, and we were just in the vicinity, and we are mercenaries. We're looking for some work, and we hear you might have some.
People have been saying great things.
Hmm.
Wow, it is pleasant to hear that uh, opinion on my existence has shifted to a more favorable state. Um, and he says, "Come in." And he walks you in, um, and you can see like around the room scattered are like half finished prosthetics of like arms and feet and like full legs and whatnot, kind of just like on the tables, and like there's like gears and weird canisters of a light blue liquid kind of like being suspended and fed through these like flasks and spiraling tubes and decanters. Um, he turns to you and he says, "For what reason do you need a job?"
Why does anyone else need a job? Sometimes they just need gold.
"Yes." "What do you need the gold for?"
Supplies, hiring. We do have a ship to run, and that ship needs to run.
"Yes, the ship that just docked today.
Hmm.
You are part of its crew."
Not to brag, but the captain.
"Yes, I see." And he turns and you see his eyes like kind of like intensify and focus and like not like burn holes, but like like shoot lasers as like a laser pointer, kind of like at the
That
hat, like
high.
as if scanning it. And he says, "That hat looks familiar. I operated on someone wearing that hat once."
He's around it. Yeah, previous guy had the hat. Now I'm the guy with the hat. Was it
"Interesting.
Aramis? Was his name Aramis?
I am fairly terrible with names. However, he was a friend of Orin. Orin is a friend of mine. So I agreed to fix his stumpy hand."
Oh, that's nice.
You recall that Aramis had always been wearing gloves, um, kind of covering his hands. And if he ever took one off, it was only he would only take off his left glove and kept the right one kind of sheathed at all times. Um, and he says, "Well, I can think of. I personally do not need any grave assistance at the moment, but if you are looking for gold in order to fix your ship, I would recommend that you perhaps go on an expedition with the divers.
Divers?
Yes, they dive down deep into the water as the island is moving, and they try and find treasure or other amenities on the ocean floor. Uh, this is how we make a good amount of our gold. We dig up treasures that were left behind, often from ships. Some of them very old chests. The divers are always very excited about it. However, they do often encounter monsters in the water. But, of course, we were built to kill, so this is not much of an issue. Perhaps it might be for you, though.
Uh, we're fleshy. There's no way around that. But I feel like the main issue that may not be taken into account, we do require to breathe. We're not similar to Warforged. Is there any equipment they have to negate the necessary need for breath? I mean, you might have like a helmet that can hold some air, but is that doesn't seem like it would be enough. We're hitting the ocean floor, right?
Oh, yes, I always forget that you folk need to breathe. What a strange quirk. Um, and he says, I'm sure if you make a good enough impression, they might be able to lend you some of their equipment that has been retrofitted in order to fit people's breathy faces. Um, he kind of like draws you a map as to like where to find like where the divers would be at. He name drops Shal as being one of those divers that you might have as a point of contact to talk to. And he says, if you encounter any monsters and get cut up, I will gladly patch you up.
Thank you. I bet we'd get a great deal from you, and we'd get some pretty good hands. I've seen your work.
Thank you. Many on the island do not appreciate my work. They believe that it is a crime to mix our distinct capabilities and um, structure with that of the living. They believe it is some sort of sin. But I think that it helps people, and that if it helps people, there is no reason not to do it.
Yeah, that's an interesting take on the others. Yeah, I'm with you entirely. I mean, like, there's some parts of the human body that we just, don't use. So, like, it's got to be similar to that, right? Maybe medical.
Probably.
Yeah, yeah.
um, uh, uh, yeah, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No, no, I'm just trying to make him agree. Like, yeah.
Um, as you are standing in his workshop, he has the same like kind of tube system leading into his home, and another like a little like a ball like kind of rockets into the room, clatters into this small receptacle. He says, "Excuse me, I must read this." He kind of walks over, he opens it up, peers inside. Anatomy tech. I'll go ahead and roll investigation for that. And I'll resolve that in a second. He reads it and he says, "Interesting. Another ship has docked nearby. What an incredible night indeed, or day indeed. This is very, very rare." Boo, you do not find anything because mostly this place is a mess.
Okay.
Um, in quite stark contrast to all the order and neat precision that is omnipresent in the city. Um, and he says, "This is very strange indeed. But the more visitors, the better."
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, do you guys stick around the workshop? What are you guys up to?
But just a quick question for him. Does everyone on the island get a notification for when someone docks?
Yeah, you ask him about it, and he says, "Yes, we have a centralized system that allows for messages to be sent to every single building, home, floor, room in the entire island near simultaneously. In fact, we borrowed this idea from Palestrom." Um, he says, "We have a fellow here from the Gallan Republic who has been staying here for quite some time, and he informed us that in the capital city of Palestrom there are similar tubes leading into every home stemming from the castle, and that the Storm King himself uses the wind to speak into the system and inform every citizen simultaneously of whatever they might need to be informed of. And we decided to build a system into our city as well. We thought it might be helpful and more efficient."
All right, yeah, that's pretty cool.
I kind of want to ask him, like, you're pretty different from other people of your kind. You're like other people, other Warforges aren't as sympathetic or as, messy.
Our kind is new in the history of life. Each of us are taking our own journey into individualism at our own pace. I, for one, have seemed to outpace my fellow comrades and have reached a level of thinking that many people do not. Though they oppose me in my research and my pursuits, in a way, this gives me a sense of relief. It helps me feel as if I am distinguishing myself amidst all of us, which were created identically.
Interesting.
Well, you definitely have your own personality, buddy. I'll give you that.
Thank you. I am actively trying to cultivate one.
It's working. You keep on doing you.
Uh, cool. Where do we want to go now as we wrap up tonight's session?
Oh, the ship or the like the deep diving? Because deep diving just, I mean, come on, that sounds fun.
Yeah, we could ask around. I'm not sure what time it is, but
It's about like mid-afternoon currently.
Sounds like enough time for some deep diving.
I'm sure they have like 4-hour tours.
Yeah, I mean, like once you hit the bottom of the ocean, it's not like it really matters if it's day or night as much. It's dark in there anyways.
True.
But also at the same time, whose ship could be here?
Mm-hmm.
You know
Could
what?
we pass by on the way to
Yeah.
the deep diving?
Can we just do like a quick what?
Sure. All right. Interesting. So you all, after getting this advice from Tink, you all go back down to the docks, and as you stop by, you see that there is a very small ship docked there. It's like it couldn't fit more than like 10 people on
Hmm.
it. There's maybe like one room. Like it's a cabin where one person might sleep maybe, but maybe the majority of the crew will be sleeping on deck. Um and you look, and as you are like kind of passing by, you see Aurelius, the guy that you saw earlier, um being like dragged to the ship. He's like kind of he doesn't look like he's fighting against it, more like he's consigned himself to the fact that he's being dragged away. Um, and he's being loaded up onto the ship, kind of carried off onto it.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. I guess we gotta run up. I mean,
yeah.
well,
Oh my
Yeah, we
god.
go
gotta.
there.
No, no, no,
Aurelius,
no,
you
no, no,
good?
no.
Aurelius.
Um, the two men dragging, they're large, like kind of burly men. They do not have the distinctive green tattoos of a wind cloak, but they do seem very like well built. They turn, and he says, one of them turns and he says, "Listen, this is not your business right now. I understand." And he kind of glances down. at the shield pin still strapped to some of your like openly on your clothing, and he says, "I understand there might be some kind of impulse here to play us some big damn hero, but this man right here is a very important asset to the Gallan Republic, and as an island neutral body such as the Shield, it is not on you to interfere with the business of the Storm King." Uh,
Aurelius.
Aurelius is knocked out, by the way. He is not conscious.
Damn.
With respect, the Storm King
Mm.
doesn't have authority here on the island of the Warforged.
The man that you were talking to, like, drops Aurelius and kind of smacks onto the ground, like, unceremoniously, and he marches up to you and he says, "The Storm King has authority wherever the wind blows. And as last time I checked, this island has air, even though these things might not need it. Wherever the wind blows, the Storm King has dominion." He's like up in your face, Buru.
Uh,
Well,
can I do like
yeah, no, you
an
go.
intelligence? Oh, God.
Oh, just two things. One, perception check. Anyone there that seems like they're a wind cloak? I assume it's. Is it just two guys?
It seems to be just two guys that are outside right now.
Okay. I'll just say. Well, I. Then if it's everywhere that wind presides, I got some wind for you. I fart on him and cast fog cloud.
Yes. That is
Mm.
beautiful.
Mhm.
Incredible. Okay. You cast fog cloud
Yeah,
and
I want to try to get it like it's the fart, but I put the ring there. Yeah.
yeah, like literally from around your booty hole. This like immense burst. I'm gonna. You want to flavor it to be that like blue green mist that
Oh
clip
yeah,
like
like
the
but in this context, it makes it way worse. It somehow has
right.
a bad smell now.
Yeah, it looks noxious.
Uh,
It like spreads across. Immediately this guy starts coughing. Um, and you can see like a little bit like on the ground near Aurelius. The fog clears a little bit as the wind itself like swirls around him so that he can see, and he kind of crawls his way up. And he goes, "What happened?"
someone get him! Run!
Yeah, I would like to go in and try to help Aurelius out of the.
Yeah, yeah. Both of you make dexterity checks to see if you can like dash over there and pick him up and get him out of the way in good time. Oh, look
While
at
they're
that!
Alock, you
Yeah,
got one good roll.
Two,
Oh, two? Yeah, you got an 18.
both
perfect number.
times.
Ruby.
while they're doing that, can I use liturgy to like maybe project like Aurelius's voice like somewhere else so the guards think he's not where he is?
That is awesome. I love that. In what direction are you gonna lead them? Like where are you gonna put his voice? Like
I'm gonna try to get them to walk off the dock and into the water. Maybe like where the water is.
sure. Con- okay, cool. You do that and you make it sound as if like he's about like you kind of like do that thing where you can go to make it sound like you're falling. If or like Aurelius has jumped off like while shouting, like falling into the water. And Alok and Suma, you successfully grab him by both arms and like kind of like drag him like to his feet really quick and into the depths of this cloud. Um, Incredible. I want to say. I'm gonna say you also kind of mimic the sound of like something splashing into water. Like along with that entire deception. Um, uh, and okay, so you guys are huddled in this fart cloud. That Gallet has summoned up. Uh, Aurelius in tow. What do you do with him?
Run!
You run.
Just run?
Were you
Okay.
gonna do something? Yeah, yeah. I was just gonna head towards our friends.
Yeah, I'm a speedy boy, so I can run pretty fast.
You all usher him. I'm gonna make some perception checks. That's a 6.
And
I
are
like
we
That's a
able to see?
4. The guards are fully convinced by this ruse. They kind of scramble through the fog cloud, holding their breaths, such that they don't breathe in whatever this might be, and they head towards the water. As you all are like escaping, you hear splash, splash, kind of off in the distance.
Is Aurelius conscious at this point?
Yes, but very vaguely. He's kind of like,
Let's just get on
oh,
the ship. Let's just get on the ship.
hello. Sure. You take him back up
Isn't it
to
the first place they'd look?
Well, yeah, but like, no matter what, they know it's our ship. So it's
Listen,
either our ship without
they showed up.
us, or the ship with
After
also-
us.
Yeah, I mean, technically they don't know that it's your ship. It would be a pretty easy
It's an
thing
easy-
to.
yeah.
Is he
Parked right next door.
beat up? Like, does he seem like he needs like medical attention?
Make a roll a medicine check for me.
I'd rather they attack us on our ship
Yeah,
with
like
all of our crew.
we have like a lot of people,
Okay.
and there's 2 of them.
He seems woozy.
Okay.
You can't really tell what's wrong with him though. Yeah. So as you all rush Aurelius up to your ship, we're gonna end the session there for the night. It is around that time. And we will be not having a session next week. We will be pick up again. Let me check. Wednesday, March 10th. Yeah.
Before I forget, while we
Yes.
have this time when we're running away, can I cast False Life on myself?
Sure. I'll say you do that as you are running.
Okay.
Cool. That's pretty good.
Cool.
Do I take the first one or the second one? I'm not sure what I'm looking at.
Oh, for some reason I did it twice. I guess I'll just do the first one.
Yeah, the first one's higher anyway. Cool. Are there any questions about what happened? I'm sorry if some of that was unclear.
I think I got the majority of it. Question, just wondering. At the beginning, did
Yeah.
Valera ever say Aurelius? Did I actually miss that for a long time?
She never said the name.
Okay, I didn't want to feel that bad. Ooh,
In the letter, she just wrote "Dear brother."
okay. Also, I assume not because we did nothing, but I don't. Did we level up?
No.
Okay.
Not this time. But soon. I do want to get you guys leveled up sooner rather than later. But I'm also not a fan of just like throwing random battles.
Mhm.
Cool. Well, thank you all for the great session.
Mm-hmm.
We're enemies of the Gallan Republic.
Oh no.
Sick, right?
If that's who they really are.
Yeah, or
That's who they really are.
or if they make we can kill them. We could just.
I was gonna
straight
say,
up
if we end up killing them, no one.
Look,
No
I'm
one's
just
gonna-
That's valid.
Look, we're in the high
We
seas.
could also burn their
lost
boat.
Yeah, like we could shoot their boat apart. It seems like the
Yeah.
Warforged are sort of okay with this stuff happening.
Pretty lawless.
True.
Yeah, so like, you know what? When we get back to it in 2 weeks, we can just probably decide to kill them, or take out their boat, make them stuck on the island.
If they attack us, then yeah.
They seem like rude
Do
dudes.
we know who the Storm King is? I don't.
The Storm King is like the leader of the Gallan Republic. He's like their yeah, he lives in a castle in Palestrom. He's like the head of the whole thing. He's like revered as a godlike figure within the religion of the Gallan Republic. He's like the Pope if the Pope was also the king and also a military leader.
Oh.
Is he affiliated with like Ursula?
He is affiliated with Ventus, who is the god of
Okay.
winds. who in mythology or lore, at least for this world, are siblings.
Yeah, I guess like the King of Breezes is not a cool name.
Yeah, it is not. Because storm is just a cooler word, and in general, the people of the Gallan Republic kind of minimize Priscilla's role in the pantheon, and kind of absorb a lot of her stories and duties and responsibilities and powers into him. In the way that in some pantheons, like some gods are like kind of get added stuff added onto them that actually were never their stories to begin with.
Mm.
Gotcha.